Jen, and I want to talk today a little bit about why or why not you would change certain words from uppercase to lowercase or from lowercase to uppercase. So if it didn't make a difference whether it was uppercase or lowercase, then why change them? And if it does make a difference, then why would they do that? Why would they change them? Common and proper nouns carry different ideas with them. So a common noun is lowercase and a proper noun is uppercase. So when I look at the Articles of Confederation, I'm looking at what is uppercase and what's in lowercase. And this is the first page of the original handwritten, or what we believe to be the original handwritten Article of Confederation. And we know in Article 1, it's capitalized the, capitalized United, capitalized States of capital America. And then in Article 2, it has it capitalized in the same way it has it in the Constitution. So the United States is capitalized, and Congress is capitalized, and assembled is not capitalized. Then we have throughout the document, in every other instance where you see United States and Congress, they're all lowercase, including the word state. So every time after this, as far as I can tell, this document is a little bit hard to read. I see where it's states in lowercase, the United States in lowercase, Congress, I believe uppercase, and then assembled lowercase, the United States lowercase, the governor lowercase, each of these states lowercase, other states lowercase. So why does it matter? So the United States, you can obviously tell that these are uppercase letters here and here and here and here. But then when you get here, states, the S on states is the same size. And here we have the word severally, which is definitely not a word that would be capitalized, looks exactly the same as the S in states. So they're all lowercase, but looks a little bit different than the S in this, the United States, which appears to be capital. Because states, lowercase back then, looked kind of more like an F, where the bottom part of the S goes way down under. So the said states hereby severally. Lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. Said lowercase, states lowercase, severally lowercase. They're all in lowercase. Said and said right here, S for said, states severally. And each of the part of the S comes down under the line, so they're each lowercase. But here, it's not. So this is a capital United and capital S for states and capital C for Congress. But down here, said, states severally, all lowercase. So I'm making this point because throughout the rest of the document, even where it says United States, they're all in lowercase, where the S definitely comes down and the U is definitely, as far as I can tell, lowercase. And it's like this throughout the document. So if I were to say my grandmother, G would be uppercase because she's my grandmother. If I would say all grandmothers or the grandmothers, it would be lowercase because I'm talking in general to grandmothers. So the United States of America is specific to this document, which created the style of the Confederacy. So the United States of America is proper and therefore property. Specific, a specific place, specifically something. The United States in Congress assembled is specifically the United States of this Congress. Now, you can't have the United States of America and the United States being the same place. Why have two names for one place? Because they're not the same place. They're two different places. You have the United States of America being the whole country, and the United States in Congress assembled, meaning some people of the states at the seat of government assembled for defense purposes, according to the Constitution. So states here, it's not claiming the ownership of the states because they're all in lowercase. It's not claiming ownership of inhabitants. It's not claiming ownership of citizens. Citizens is lowercase. Inhabitants is lowercase. That's because these people are free, sovereign, and independent. They're free, sovereign, and independent. They do not belong to anything. They're not owned. They're not slaves. They're not dependents. This is, I believe, the big secret that once it gets out, people are going to realize, they're going to wake up and they're going to realize, oh, the federal government doesn't have control over me. They can't tell me what to do. Now, we know in the Articles of Confederation that it claims that the states are all free, sovereign, and independent. And it says that in Article 2, each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. And the states are actually made up of the inhabitants and citizens and the settlers. They create the state for themselves, not the federal government. The federal government does not create the states. The federal government was supposed to only be a mechanism of defense to build forts in the states, a joint union for defense purposes, a joint federation, a federal government for defense purposes, only for defense, not for anything else. The other things listed are the things they're supposed to do on the forts to keep us free. So you have a constitution which is over the federal areas, which are the forts for fortifications, to protect all the states equally. So here we have all under lowercase in the Articles of Confederation because the Articles didn't claim ownership of anything. Not people, not places, only that they were in a league of friendship together, that they made friends, that they weren't going to act against each other, which is good. Some definitions here I'll get to in just a minute. But when you go to this website, the Office of the Law Revision Council, uscode.house.gov, and you click on front matter, and then you click on organic laws, part of an organ. They all work together. You can't have one without the other. In spite of anything anybody tells you, you first have to have a firm league of friendship before you can join in for defense purposes. So let's look at our firm league of friendship. When they transcribed this document, they altered it and they made everything that they wanted capitalized. Okay, United States of America and Congress assembled. the United States of America, and that's the way it's supposed to be written according to the handwritten document. And then the United States and Congress assembled. This is correct. So up to about here, everything's correct. But once you get to Article 2, they change it. They change it from lowercase to uppercase. Now I showed you it's not difficult to tell that these are starting in Article 2, that these are lowercase letters. If I put these lines all together, you can see said, states, severally are all lowercase. They all look exactly the same. They're all lowercase. It's not hard to tell this. And then if you compare it to what's in Article 2 here, the United States, the word states does not come below the line. I put the line here, right underneath, and it doesn't come below, but the S's here come below. Congress, C-O-N-G-R-E-S-S. This S looks just like these S's. The first S is always sort of like an F, and then the second one is a regular S. And that's how they wrote it in Article 3 here. The said states severally. So it's obvious that they're trying to say that states are owned, that somehow there's some ownership involved. The states are not owned by governments. People create governments for themselves, and the people own the governments and the states. States of this union, this is Article 4, that's 3-4. States, this union is lowercase. S here is lowercase. People is lowercase, the people. So lowercase people are these people who create these states for themselves, and they create a firm league of friendship. So over here, they start capitalizing everything. And again, I ask, if there's no need to change it, why change it? Why not keep it true to the original document? Is it because there is a need to change it? So we can look at the Constitution, and they did a lot of uppercase, lowercase. We the people, which appears to be written as a title. The now is lowercase, United States of America. So people will say, well, the Constitution replaced the Articles of Confederation. And what I'm saying is, I don't believe it. I think that's a lie. And why do I think that's a lie? I think that's a lie because the founders were well aware of what a repealing clause is. And the Articles of Confederation were never repealed. As a matter of fact, the Constitution states to create a more perfect union. So in other words, they're already stating that the union was perfect. It was perfect. But they wanted a more perfect union because according to the law of nations, in order to be considered a country, you have to create a method of defending it. And you defend it through fortifications. And that's what the Constitution does. It creates fortifications. So the people who created the federal government, the people who created the Articles of Confederation, were in a firm league of friendship together. But they needed war powers. Not emergency powers, but just regular war powers. And so they created the Constitution. And in my opinion, these are the war powers, according to the law of nations, to fortify itself so that it can protect itself. So it can protect what? so it can protect the Confederation. That's what it was supposed to do. The Constitution was supposed to protect the Confederation. And what is the Confederation? A firm league of friendship between all the states of the Union. So here's your government, which is already was a perfect union, and then came along the more perfect war powers. All legislative, capital P powers, specific powers owned by the federal government, given to them by way of the Constitution. A specific Congress for purposes of going to the seat of government for defense of the nation when it's required. Specific people, specific states, specific electors, specific citizens, not like citizens in the Articles of Confederation where it generally just meant everyone, because all the people create a state for themselves, right? So the common man creates a state for itself, and those are the lowercase c citizens. They're free citizens. But when you have people acting for war purposes, they're not common people. They're specific people given specific jobs to do specific things. And they have to become a specific kind of citizen. They become a federal citizen, a citizen of the United States. And the United States owns these people in a sense, because these people are supposed to be in service to the states, looking out for us, protecting us, which they're not doing anymore, and they haven't done in a long time. Okay, so this is what I have for you today. You can look up the organic laws here. They have a Constitution, Articles of Confederation, but I want you to note that the Articles of Confederation do not actually look like the one that was written. And the United States in Congress assembled is owned by these people. They own it. The United States in Congress assembled is controlled by these people. And who are these people? Free, sovereign, and independent states. And who are the states? The states are and only can be created by free, sovereign, and independent people. Free, sovereign, and independent people create free, sovereign, and independent states. And those states got together and formed a confederation, and they said, oh, we need war powers. We need to build forts. We need all the states to have forts. And all those forts are going to be ran according to Article 1, Section 8 of this document, the Constitution. All those forts and the seat of government are going to be ran according to the Constitution. And all the war powers are here in the Constitution. These are the emergency powers for the states to protect themselves. And they all agreed. The problem is these people never leave the seat of government. They stay there 24/7 making law after law after law after law. And they've gotten so big and out of hand that they probably don't even know what this Constitution says. They don't care what the powers are or the limitations are. And they misconstrue it to mean whatever they want it to mean. have some definitions here from Chambers Etymological Dictionary. An etymological dictionary is the origin of words. Origin, it's important to know what the origin of words are because they tell you when it was first used, how it was first used, what the intention of the word was when it was first used, and the breakdown of the word, and what language the word came from. So for example, proper, as in proper noun, an adjective, probably before 1300, propre, special, commendable. In Kyng Alisaunder, also proper, one's own. It's mine. This is mine. My grandmother. My grandmother, the G is capitalized. If I go to an old folks home and I say all these grandmas, I mean lowercase g because none of them are mine. I'm speaking the common grandma, grandmas in general. When I say state, and I mean my state, then I'm talking about capital S. When I say all the states, or those states, I'm talking about lowercase s. So when the Constitution capitalizes something, it means what belongs to it. These powers, herein granted, belong to the federal government for federal purposes. That means they use these powers on their lands, their people, their citizens. The United States belongs to them in the sense that they make the laws for it. And the laws for it are, they extend to the lands that they were annexed by the states for forts and the seat of government, which is in this document, to exercise exclusive legislation. That means the federal government has power to make the laws for the federal lands without state interference. There's nothing in here that says the federal government gets to make laws for the states, only that the states agree that they wouldn't do certain things, that they would let the government handle it. There's nothing that says the federal government has control over all the people off federal lands. There's nothing in here that says that. They have control over the land and naval forces, over itself, the forts, and the militia when called into service. Now, if it only has control over the militia when called into service, actual service, then how do we assume, or how do they assume, or how do we all assume that they have control over all of us all the time, every day, everywhere? They don't. Otherwise, it would say that. In all cases whatsoever over such district, specific, the district owned by the feds, capitalized. As maybe by session, it has to be actually seated in reality, documented. There's got to be a record of it. Of particular, you see it says particular states. Each state has to specifically and on the record cede lands to the federal government. And proper acceptance according to the law of Congress, the Congress that's in session, to become the seat of the government. This is a title. Seat is uppercase. Of and the are articles. They don't need to be uppercase. And government is uppercase. And then of the United States. The seat of government of the United States, not the United States of America. If they were the same place, they wouldn't write it two different ways. That's not a nickname. Institutions don't have nicknames on paper when they write legal documents. Authority, actual authority belonging to the government. over specifically the places purchased by the actual and on the record consent by the lawfully elected representatives of the state, the particular state, in which the same shall be the exact same, so equal, for the erection of, okay, building of, and these things, forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, qualify as fortifications, as specified in the Law of Nations, which is also in here, right here, Law of Nations, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the Law of Nations. Because the Law of Nations applies to like trade routes and such. So when another nation blocks the trade routes, it's considered, according to the Law of Nations, as an act of war. And then the federal government has a right to clear that area out and punish people for it. Okay, so necessary also means something very specific. Back in those days in 1787 was different than what it is now. Okay, to make all laws deemed proper, to which the federal government was given the right to make in this document, shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. For carrying into execution the foregoing specific and written down powers. This is what happens when your federal government wants to become a tyrannical force and take the people's sovereignty, which Lincoln did most of that, and dumb down people so that when they see these capital letters, they have no idea what they mean. So the foregoing and other vested by this Constitution. So basically what this means, proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in a government of the United States, which was created by the Articles of Confederation. So if you take this sentence here, this part of the sentence here, it just means follow the Constitution. This means right here, follow the Constitution. That's all you get, what's in the Constitution. You make laws to, or which is legislation, to carry into actuality the powers in the Constitution to make them happen. Okay, and these are the laws of the lands. Which land? Right here, seat of government and places purchased. That's the land. That's the land of the federal government. This is a constitution of the federal government to benefit the United States of America and what they're going to do on their lands to help fortify this nation, all the states together. This is just a part of the Articles of Confederation. We know that because it says that it assembles. The United States and Congress assembled. But before the Articles of Confederation, it didn't have a constitution. They needed a constitution. What you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and nothing else. That way they wouldn't just be doing whatever they want, which they are anyway, so the Constitution really didn't work. It gave them too much power. All right, that's my video today. If you have any questions, post them in the comments section, and I try to answer everyone who asks questions. And if you have any material to add, please do so, and we'll take a look at it. Y'all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.